This baby fell 11 floors from her grandfather's arms. On July 2019, 18-month-old Chloe and her family were vacationing at the Royal Caribbean Cruises in Puerto Rico when her grandfather sat her at the window ledge and she fell 11 floors to the ground. Chloe's grandfather, Salvatore Anello, says that it was all an accident and he thought the window was closed. He said he leaned Chloe against the window because that's what she likes to do. Chloe's mother, Kim, was devastated, but she does stand by her father and says that the cruise was negligent and should have never had an open window by a kid's play area.
Chloe's family says she fell through that open window, set to slide open to provide ventilation in what's known as the H2O zone aboard the cruise ship. A family attorney says the toddler's grandfather, Sam, placed her on a railing to look outside, believing he was lifting the toddler behind a wall of glass.
After the cruise ship reviewed their surveillance footage, there seems to be more to the story.
But ship video, first shown on TV in Puerto Rico last month, shows Anello leaning out the window for about 8 seconds while Chloe is still on the ground. Then he lifts the girl up and over a wooden rail. He held her for about 34 seconds before she slipped from his arms. Royal Caribbean says the video proves Anello had to know the window was open and recklessly lifted Chloe over the window.
Salvatore pleaded guilty to negligent homicide and was sentenced to 3 years probation.
These are kids' toys that got banned, part 1. Up first is Aquad Dots. This toy allows you to arrange small beads together with water and you can make your own design. Sounds fun, right? But the problem with this toy was, the coating actually released the drug GHB, aka the date rape drug. 3 kids went into a coma after swallowing the toxic pieces. They then completely recalled Aquad Dots. Next up is something I know we all remember, the Easy Bake Oven. But how could this be dangerous and banned? Well, several kids burned their fingers after getting it caught in the miniature appliance. One girl even had to get her whole finger amputated. This is actually insane, and who knew a harmless toy could cause so much pain and damage?
I've never researched a case that has had more unexplainable circumstances than this. This is the mystery of Dyatlov Pass. For those who aren't familiar with the story, this is in 1959 when 9 experienced Russian hikers are reported missing after a mountain expedition. A search crew was sent to look for them, and what they found was horrific. Their tent was there, but it had been cut from the inside as if they were trying to escape it. The search party that was there didn't find any evidence of a threat outside of the tent, so why they cut their way out was completely unknown. But even stranger than that, the footprints that were found outside of the tent indicated that after they cut their way out, they weren't running. They were just walking normally. The bodies are all discovered kind of scattered in a several-mile radius throughout the snow, some of them half-dressed. 6 of them died from hypothermia, and 3 of them died from an unknown blunt force trauma causing severe damage to the skull and chest. 2 of them are found without eyes, 1 with their tongue cut out, and 1 without eyebrows. 1 of the bodies also tested positive for unusually high levels of radiation in their clothing. The most widely accepted theory is that this was some kind of an avalanche that had melted by the time the search party came, and that the missing eyes and tongue were just attributed to animals. But let's talk about some contradicting evidence here. These were 9 very experienced hikers that would know enough not to set up camp in any sort of a danger zone, nor was there any evidence that an avalanche even occurred by the time the search party came. That, in addition to the slow-moving footprints outside of the tent when they were supposedly trying to outrun this avalanche, or even the radiation in the clothing. The case has never conclusively been closed, but no one really knows for sure what they saw that night that made them cut their way out of their tent.
The strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today we have Idaho. Idaho or Idaho? In 1982, a man wandered into the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Boise, Idaho, where it appeared as if he was standing in line for confessional. Which is where you tell a person in a box all your little dirty secrets. He never made it to the booth. In fact, when it was his turn to go, he was dead on the floor. It was later determined that he had swallowed a cyanide capsule, although nobody knows whether it was intentional or forced. In his pockets, they found a lot of cash with a note that said the money was for his funeral. The note was signed WML To Me, which is a company that manufactures and sells priest clothing. It gets even weirder. 1 year before his death, 2 priests in Arizona were found murdered with a wrongfully convicted suspect held at fault. The man who died in the church was wearing a belt buckle that was traced back to Arizona, and a lot of people think that he was the one who murdered those 2 priests. So do you think his death was a suicide or a retaliation murder? Do you think he was at confession to confess all of his crimes or commit another one? What's the deal with the money in his pocket saying that it's for his funeral? I wonder if they actually used it for his funeral or just pocketed the cash.
These are the people that left almost 200 bodies in their funeral home to rot for over 4 years. They were stealing people's money, not actually cremating their loved ones, and let me just show you their Facebook post and what they were actually doing with this money. Here they are, August 10th, 2021, on a family vacation in New York City at the Empire State Building. In October of 2021, it looks like they were actually trying to buy his grandparents' old house. And they say, "We had a cash offer ready to go. Wonder where all that cash came from." Here's November 9th, 2021. Looks like they're in South Beach, Miami now, which is not cheap. Staying at a hotel right on the beach. And here they are just 1 month later in December of 2021, bragging about their nice hotel in San Francisco. And then in February of 2022, another vacation, this time to Vegas. Him and his wife and his family all going on these vacations. Here's a post from December 2021 talking about how he's so happy with where his businesses are at, the right people in the right place doing the right thing at the right time. Yeah, you were never doing the right thing.
A man who disappeared almost a decade ago has been found newly deceased, but the mystery continues. In July 2013, Robert Hoagland disappeared from his Connecticut home. He was married with 3 sons, and his family were extremely concerned when they discovered that he had not taken his phone, wallet or passport with him. He was last seen on July the 28th at a petrol station in Newtown. He'd filled his car with petrol and bought a map from the station. This was to be his final card purchase. He was captured smiling on CCTV, and hours later, a neighbour saw him mowing the lawn. He'd actually planned with his wife to pick her up from the airport because she'd been on holiday. However, when he was due to arrive, he just never showed up. When she finally made her own way home, she discovered that he had not turned up for work either, and his car was still on the drive. When police searched his computer, they discovered that all of his searches had been deleted. Now, Robert's son had been struggling with substance abuse, and Robert had recently confronted some men associated with his son. This was in connection with 2 family laptops that had gone missing, and Robert thought that these 2 men had stolen them. However, police looked into these men and found no evidence linking them to his disappearance. Police investigations continue to reach dead ends, but all of that changed on the 5th of December 2022. Police were called to an address where a man was deceased. This man was Robert Hoagland. He'd been living under a new identity since 2013. He lived with his roommate David in Rock Hill, New York, and David believed his name to be Richard King. Robert had told David that he was newly divorced from his wife and wanted to start a new life. No cause of death has been released yet, but police are not suspecting foul play.
Why is everyone talking about this woman? It's this woman, 59-year-old Debbie Collier, who was a mother and office manager who was found charred alive in the northeast of Georgia. But while I'm sitting here and I'm, researching this case, it's even stranger than I thought it was. Something is deeply off with this story. So here's what we know. September 10th, she is reported missing, and the following day, her van is found, but she's not inside. So the daughter comes forward. She says that, her mom doesn't have any history of mental illness. She wouldn't be trying to hurt herself. So what happened here? Well, later that day, after the van was found, they go deeper into the woods where Debbie is found on a tarp, described as burned alive. This was a tarp she bought herself at the Dollar Tree, shortly before she was found. Stranger than that, her daughter comes forward and says before she was found, her mom Venmo'd her $2,385, along with this cryptic message. Does that not seem like an oddly specific amount, though?
Interesting facts about different countries. The only place you can't find Coca-Cola is Cuba. There's more lakes in Canada than the rest of the world. Australia has the most national parks in the world. 90% of Algeria is inhabitable.
This is a disturbing case of Michelle Carter and how she convinced her boyfriend to take his own life. On July 13th, 2014, police discovered 18-year-old Conrad Roy's lifeless body inside his pickup truck parked outside a Kmart. Conrad struggled with depression and anxiety, and on this day, he took his own life by exposing himself to carbon monoxide while he sat in his truck. But this is where things get disturbing. disturbing. In the weeks leading up to Conrad's suicide, he was exchanging text messages with his girlfriend, 17-year-old Michelle Carter, who actually encouraged him to take his own life. And on the same day that Conrad ended his life, she sent him these text messages, which if you pause and read it, it's super disturbing. Every time Conrad was hesitant or wanted to back out, Michelle was there to convince him and push him to do it. She even went as far as giving him step-by-step instructions on how to do it. Now, it's been said that Michelle also struggled with her mental health, and that's how they both kind of bonded in their relationship. This case really raised questions about mental health and whether someone could be held accountable for someone else's suicide. Michelle was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and was released early from prison after serving 11 months of her 15-month sentence.
The world's worst job, otherwise known as Shein or Sheen, however you pronounce it. Hi, my name is Ethan, and let's get right into this. Recently, I've heard a lot of rumors about how bad the Shein workers are treated each day, and honestly, nothing could have prepared me for what I learned. This all started in June of 2022 when a viral TikTok displayed articles of Shein clothing with handwritten messages stating, "Need your help." According to Brightly.eco, they state that the average Shein worker works 7 days a week in 18-hour shifts. They even found that some of the workers were seen washing their own hair while they were at work just to keep up with their personal hygiene. Not only do they work a lot, but they also make a base salary of $556 a month to make 500 articles of clothing each day. Let me know what you guys think.
The death of the Cranberries lead singer Dolores O'Riordan still doesn't sit well with me. Dolores was the lead singer for the band The Cranberries, an Irish rock band. You might know the band from some of their biggest hits like Zombie or Dreams. The Cranberries were a massively successful band, and Dolores was actually one of the richest women in all of Ireland, with a reported net worth of over $66 million. In January of 2018, Dolores traveled from New York City, where she lived at the time, to London. She was traveling there to work with the producer on her side project and discuss a new Cranberries album. When she arrived, she checked in at this Hilton hotel in London, and this is eventually where she would die later that night. At around 2 a.m. on January 15, 2018, Dolores placed a phone call to her mother from inside her hotel room. Later that morning, she was found unresponsive in her bathroom and was pronounced dead at 9:16 a.m. The day after her death, a tabloid newspaper released an article that claimed that they had found fentanyl in her room. This article also falsely stated that London authorities suspected that she took her own life and that this overdose was on purpose. In reality, there was no fentanyl in her bathroom, but the circumstances surrounding her death are even stranger. It took months for her official cause of death to be released, but this is officially what happened. Apparently, her death was ruled an accidental drowning in her bathtub, following sedation by alcohol intoxication. So basically, they said that she got so drunk that she fell asleep in her bathtub and drowned. Toxicology tests done post-mortem showed that Dolores had some levels of pharmaceutical drugs in her system at the time of her death, but these were drugs that she was prescribed and there was nothing out of the ordinary. She did have a very high blood alcohol level though. According to authorities, there's no foul play suspected, and they don't even suspect that she tried to end her own life. This was just a tragic accident. If you're enjoying this series about bizarre celebrity deaths, be sure to give me a follow and let me know who you'd like me to cover next.
I have 2 frames that I found from the Erica McKinney footage. You don't know about the McKinney tapes. This is back in 2015 when an old video camera was found abandoned. The footage is played back and it's immediately turned into cops. Everything that I knew about this was that everything was sealed to evidence. They never released the footage, but back in 2020, 2 frames leaked from this camera. This was the first still that leaked from the footage, and it's a 7-minute clip of what appears to be somebody kind of drying off a knife in the bathroom. The background of the picture is what tied this to Erica McKinney. It said the background of the video was connected back to Erica McKinney's bathroom. Erica McKinney was a Seattle woman who was found carved, is what the report said back in 2015. Meaning whoever took this footage was most likely the culprit behind it. This was the only other still that leaked from the footage, and it is haunting.
Scammers are getting way too creative nowadays. Last year, a 65-year-old woman from Japan was scrolling on Instagram when she suddenly came across a DM that caught her eye. To her incredible surprise, it was from someone who claimed to be a Russian astronaut. Since this man had photos of the International Space Station on his account, and he also seemed to be very familiar with space agency acronyms like NASA and JAXA, this woman completely trusted that he was telling the truth. They soon began casually chatting with one another, which quickly turned into everyday texts. And before long, this woman had fallen in love with this mysterious astronaut, and he had declared his love for her as well, promising that he would move to Japan to marry her. But there was only one problem. He was still aboard the International Space Station, and according to him, he just couldn't afford to come back to Earth. As a result, this astronaut asked the woman whether she could send him some money to pay for a rocket to come get him, as well as for landing fees. Although at first this woman happily agreed, obviously willing to help out her future husband, after she'd sent a total of $30,000 over 5 transactions and the man still wanted more, she finally became suspicious and contacted the cops. It's unknown whether the woman's money was ever retrieved, but unfortunately the man behind the scam was never caught.
Five-year-old Erşan Findikoglu is the mastermind behind one of the most intricate bank robberies in history. A crime so brazen, he posed with a pile of cash on his chest. Secret Service agent Scott Serafian says millions were taken from ATMs in New York City alone.
Block after block, ATM after ATM. They hit them all.
They had it mapped out, and they knew that Broadway had a large number of ATMs in close proximity to each other.
From Turkey, Findikoglu hacked into the computers of international banks, stole account information, and then sent ATM numbers to criminal gangs around the world he'd recruited online. He also removed all withdrawal limits from the accounts. Gang members, seen here on surveillance cameras, then went to work, hitting machines from Tokyo to London to New York, where Ken Primo is a Secret Service agent.
They came and emptied these.
Yes, multiple transactions. Put your card in, put your pins in, take out the limit, put your card in, put your pin in, take out your limit.
Back in Turkey, Findikoglu was watching it all.
He was watching so that he could tell who was withdrawing how much, so that he'd know how much money he was supposed to get back.
The first hit happened in February of 2011. 15,000 transactions in 18 countries. $10 million were stolen. The second hit was December 2012. 5,000 transactions in 20 countries. $5 million were withdrawn. Then the big score, February 19th, 2013. In a little over 10 hours, crews made some 36,000 transactions in 24 countries for a take of $40 million in cash. The thieves sent most of the money back to Findikoglu, but started showing off their take, cash and expensive watches. Their end came at a mob movie staple, a New York diner, where police arrested one gang member carrying almost $1 million. But Dave Beach, who runs the Secret Service office in New York, says most of the money has not been recovered.
Gone. Just gone. It was cash. It's untraceable.
When your creepy 4-year-old gets a new doll.
You got it? Annabelle. Oh, just like the real one.
She looks just like the real one?
Hi, I'm Chucky. I'm Annabelle. Hi, I'm Coraline. Hi, I'm Annabelle. Hi, I'm Michael. Hi, I'm Annabelle. Hi, I'm Pennywise. Hi, I'm Annabelle. Hi, I'm Chucky. Hi, I'm Annabelle. Hi, I'm Tiffany. Hi, I'm Annabelle.
Who the hell are you? The first thing we gotta do is get me out of this body once and for all.
Imagine checking into your hotel room and finding this. A woman checked into a hotel room one evening by herself. She got to her room, changed into her pajamas, laid in bed and watched some TV. When suddenly she looked over at the hotel room's mirror and noticed that it was moving. She brushed it off, but then again, it shook. So the woman got up, went over to the mirror, and couldn't find anything around it that would be causing it to shake. So then she decided to pull it back. This is what she discovered. A hole in the wall behind the mirror. Girl, run! Who or what was moving the mirror remains a mystery. But I think we can use our imaginations, and it's not good. And I hope and I pray that she immediately checked out. Because me personally, I would have been on the phone with 911 within seconds. But this does have me questioning every hotel room I've been in, and I've never looked behind any of the mirrors. It's fine. I didn't want to sleep tonight anyways.
I want to know what could feel more sinister than a playground where people are routinely going missing and nobody knows why. So there is a playground in Old Canster where a high number of people have gone missing between the years 1997 and 2003. And I didn't know much about this, but from what I read, between 97 to 2003, there were 11 children total and about 4 adults that were on record. It's one of those stories where it's a small town, there's limited resources, and if nobody can figure out who's taking the kids, then people are just eventually going to leave the city. Not a lot of people come back here to this day, but some do in pursuit of who could be behind this. Just remembering as I made this, it's Friday, so we do have a new episode of Creep Time, the podcast, out and available. So make sure to go click the link in my bio so you can listen on Spotify or Apple. So we got this odd circumstance of like entire classes going missing. So in 2006, a group of investigators ventured to the town, which nobody does. They set up security cameras in the rec center, which captured this unexplained frame of who we suspect to be our culprit.
Last week, a jury ordered Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg, Florida, to pay $261 million to the family of Maya Kowalski after they were accused of abusing Maya and barring the family from seeing her during months of treatment. This story, which is the center of Netflix's recent documentary Take Care of Maya, includes a complex history and supposed well-meaning actions by the hospital. Ultimately, the hospital was charged with false imprisonment, battery, medical negligence, among other charges related to the infliction of emotional distress on Maya and her mother, Beata, who died by suicide in 2017. Now Maya, who is 17 years old, is finally getting justice for all she endured. This is a deep dive into what happened to Maya Kowalski. Maya Kowalski was a normal, healthy young girl living in Venice, Florida, when she had an asthma attack on the 4th of July in 2015 that landed her in the hospital. While at the hospital, she began having a burning sensation in her legs and feet that just kept getting worse, and while she remained in the hospital, within weeks, she could barely walk and her legs could no longer support the weight of her body. Doctors tried to figure out what was causing her pain, and eventually, Maya was diagnosed with CRPS. Complex Regional Pain Syndrome, or CRPS, describes chronic pain and inflammation that causes sensitivity and stiffness and can last for years. This can occur anywhere in the body, but typically affects the arms, legs, hands, and or feet. And in Maya's case, the pain in her legs and feet led to her needing a wheelchair. There is no known treatment for CRPS, but one new treatment that could bring some relief would be ketamine infusions. Back in 2015, when Maya was diagnosed, ketamine was mainly known as a party drug, but it is an FDA-approved anesthetic. And it works for CRPS patients because it inhibits the effect of the amino acid glutamate, which they typically have more of. So after her initial hospitalization and through the next year, Maya received ketamine infusions every 3 to 4 weeks. She did still have to use a wheelchair, but the infusions helped significantly with her pain levels and helped her feet straighten back out and some of her lesions heal. On October 7th, 2016, though, 10-year-old Maya Kowalski was taken to the emergency room at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg, Florida, due to severe abdominal pain she was experiencing. Her parents told the nurses and doctors at the emergency room that she was sensitive to stimuli of all kinds. Like, for example, for the past 3 nights, she could only sleep for moments at a time due to her pain. Her pain had recently become so bad that droplets of water on her skin in the shower made her feel like she was on fire. One nurse attempted to conduct an ultrasound to evaluate Maya, and she was screaming in pain, and that's when her mother mentioned ketamine. And that was kind of what started it all. Go to part 2.